Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be exploring some really fascinating reflections from Will Smith.
Yeah, Will Smith, the actor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I recently came across this really insightful conversation he had with Jay Shetty.
Oh, yeah, I saw that one too.
It's not your typical celebrity interview where they just kind of, promote their latest project or whatever.
Yeah, no, this one gets pretty deep.
It does. We're going to be diving into some profound lessons Will's learned throughout his life.
I think a lot of people would be surprised to hear him talk about things like Nelson Mandela or Muhammad Ali.
Right. Or his fascination with the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah.
But before we get into all of that, I think it's important to understand the foundation of his journey, those early influences that really shaped his worldview.
Absolutely. I think the best place to start is with what Will calls his triangle of influence.
Oh, yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
So there's this triangle with three key figures.
His father, his mother, and his grandmother.
Right. And each of them represents like a different force in his life.
Exactly. So you have his father, who had this really strong military background.
Uh-huh. Very disciplined, very focused on achievement.
Exactly. And then you have his mother, who was all about education.
Making sure he had the tools to succeed academically.
Right. And then there's his grandmother, who kind of rounds out this triangle.
She's the heart, the foundation of love and faith.
Exactly. And it's fascinating how Will took these sometimes contrasting forces and kind of, forged them into tools for growth.
That's a great way to put it. And there's this one story that really illustrates this point. Remember the one about his grandmother finding his rap notebook?
Oh, yeah, with all the curse words.
He was just a kid, experimenting with language, trying to find his voice.
And you can imagine how some people might have reacted, with punishment or, shutting it down completely.
But his grandmother, she took a completely different approach.
She did. She sat down and she wrote in this letter encouraging him to use his words to uplift others.
Wow, that's amazing. That's such a powerful example of recognizing the potential for good, even when it's maybe not immediately apparent.
Right. It's about guiding that energy in a positive direction. And it seems to have had a profound impact on Will. He even credits his grandmother with inspiring him to avoid profanity in his music.
And that decision, it really set him apart. It shaped his entire career.
It did. And you can see how that early influence kind of laid the groundwork for his later spiritual exploration.
Totally. Okay, so now let's fast forward a bit. We've got this foundation of these three really powerful influences. Now, Will achieves this massive success in Hollywood.
He reaches the pinnacle of what most people would consider, the ultimate dream.
Right, the fame, the fortune, you name it. But then there's this really interesting shift that happens. He starts to realize that all of that external validation, it doesn't necessarily equate to happiness.
And he describes it as this military-minded approach to success.
Oh, yeah, like this relentless pursuit of winning,
Exactly, like complete the mission or die almost.
Yeah, and that mindset, it starts to affect his relationships too.
He talks about how even though, he was achieving all these amazing things, his family wasn't actually thriving.
They were miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah, he says it very bluntly.
And that's when he starts to question everything.
Like, what's the point of all this success if the people I love aren't happy?
Right, and it forces him to completely reevaluate his priorities.
And this is where I think we start to see the influence of his grandmother resurfacing, that emphasis on love and connection.
Yeah, it's like he's remembering those core values that were instilled in him at a young age.
And he realizes that he needs to shift his focus.
From product to people.
From winning to connecting.
From achieving to feeling.
And it's not an easy transition.
No, it's a process of unlearning and relearning.
And his children play a key role in this transformation.
They help him see the limitations of that achievement-oriented mindset.
They remind him what truly matters.
Which is connection empathy, making others feel loved and valued.
And that realization, it really sets the stage for the next chapter in Will's journey.
Which is his exploration of spirituality and the search for deeper meaning.
And that's where things get really interesting. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after a quick break to dive into that part of the story.
And it's a journey that takes him to some pretty unexpected places.
It does. Okay, so we left off with Will kind of having this realization that happiness isn't just about achieving external success.
Yeah.
It's about something deeper.
Right. It's about connection empathy.
Exactly. And this is where his spiritual exploration really starts to take shape.
So one thing that really struck me was this commitment he and Jada made to studying a different world religion every year.
Oh, yeah, I remember reading about that.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. Like, they really went all in. exploring everything from Christianity to Islam to Kabbalah.
Even Scientology.
Yeah, they didn't shy away from anything.
Yeah.
And it wasn't about converting to a specific religion or anything like that.
Right. It was more about seeking truth and understanding beyond the confines of any single belief system.
Exactly, like expanding their horizons and embracing the richness of different spiritual perspectives.
And it seems like it was a really powerful way for them to connect on a deeper level, too, like a shared journey of discovery.
Totally. And through all of this exploration, they ended up finding a deep connection with the Bhagavad Gita.
Oh, yeah, a Hindu scripture that tells the story of this warrior Arjuna.
Have you ever read it?
I have, yeah. It's fascinating.
It is. And Will draws a lot of parallels between Arjuna's struggles and the challenges we all face in our relationships.
So for those who haven't read it, Arjuna is this skilled archer who's facing a battle against his own family.
Who unjustly seized his kingdom right.
Exactly. And he's torn between his duty as a warrior and his love for his family.
It's like this classic dilemma. What's the right thing to do when you're caught between conflicting loyalties?
Right. And it's a dilemma that a lot of us can relate to in different forms.
Absolutely. And the Bhagavad Gita, it kind of offers guidance on how to navigate these really challenging situations.
It emphasizes the importance of understanding different perspectives, recognizing that there's always more to the story than we initially perceive.
Like stepping outside of our own limited viewpoint and trying to see things from the other person's shoes.
Exactly. And I think this really ties back to Will's idea of shifting from product to people.
Totally. It's about recognizing the inherent complexity of human relationships and approaching them with empathy and a willingness to understand different viewpoints.
And I think that's one of the most powerful lessons we can take away from Will's journey. This idea that true growth comes from expanding our understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
It's about being open to new ideas, challenging our own assumptions, and recognizing that we always have more to learn.
And that learning can come from the most unexpected places.
Like playing the genie in Aladdin.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He talks about how that role really resonated with him on a deeper level.
Because it allowed him to tap into this idea of being a sacred clown.
Someone who uses humor and entertainment as a vehicle for imparting wisdom and joy.
Which is such a cool concept.
Yeah.
Like recognizing the power of storytelling and creative expression to inspire and uplift others.
And to convey meaningful messages in a way that's accessible and engaging.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's a reminder that joy and wisdom aren't mutually exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
We can learn and grow while having fun.
Absolutely. And I think that's something that Will embodies really well. He's always got this playful energy about him, but there's also this deep wisdom and insight that comes through in everything he does.
Yeah, he's definitely someone who seems to be living life on his own terms, constantly evolving and exploring new ideas.
And sharing those insights with the world in a way that's both authentic and inspiring.
Absolutely. Now, before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to touch on one more really important concept that Will talks about, the idea of the broken calculator.
Oh, yeah, this is a good one.
So can you explain this analogy for our listeners?
Yeah, sure. So Will uses this analogy to illustrate how past trauma can create a distorted lens through which we interpret everything.
Like a calculator with a stuck number, always adding that fixed value to every equation.
Exactly. And it can lead to some pretty inaccurate calculations.
Especially when it comes to our relationships.
Right. So let's say you've been betrayed in a past relationship. That hurt might linger and become the stuck number in your emotional calculator.
So even when someone approaches you with genuine kindness and good intentions, you might unconsciously filter their actions through that lens of past pain.
And it can lead to misinterpretations, suspicion, mistrust.
It's like you're always adding that extra layer of doubt to the equation.
Exactly. And the first step to addressing this broken calculator syndrome is recognizing that we have one in the first place.
Being aware of how our past experiences might be shaping our perceptions and behaviors.
And then we can start to make conscious choices to break free from those limiting patterns.
Which can be really challenging, but it's so important for growth and healthy relationships.
And it's also about extending that same compassion to others, recognizing that they too may be operating with their own broken calculators.
So instead of jumping to conclusions or assigning blame, we can try to understand where the other person is coming from.
Approaching interactions with curiosity and a willingness to listen and learn.
It's a perfect segue into Will's proposed law for the world.
Oh yeah, the listening law.
Tell us about that one.
So Will suggests a law that mandates active listening and understanding before responding in a conversation.
Like you have to accurately repeat back what you heard before you can share your own thoughts.
Exactly. No knee-jerk reactions, no interruptions.
Which is a pretty radical concept.
It is. But imagine if we actually lived in a world where people genuinely listened to each other, seeking to understand rather than just waiting for their turn to speak.
It would definitely transform communication as we know it.
It could lead to fewer misunderstandings, increased empathy, more productive conversations.
Maybe even reduce conflict and promote peace.
It's a beautiful vision, and I think it really speaks to Will's core message of connection and understanding.
It's about recognizing that we all have a unique perspective shaped by our own experiences and beliefs.
And that honoring those differences is essential for building meaningful relationships and creating a more harmonious world.
And that's something we can all strive for in our own lives, starting with our own broken calculators.
Recognizing those patterns of thought and behavior that might be holding us back from experiencing true connection and fulfillment.
And then approaching our interactions with a genuine desire to listen, understand, and connect on a deeper level.
And remember, even Will Smith, with all his wisdom and experience, he still struggles with this sometimes.
He talks about how a phone call can easily pull him back into old patterns of negativity.
Even after hours of spiritual study.
It's a reminder that personal growth is an ongoing process. There will be setbacks and challenges along the way.
But the key is to keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving to become the best versions of ourselves.
Exactly. And Will's journey, it's a testament to the power of that commitment, to constantly evolving and expanding our understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
It's like you said, life is like tending a garden. We need to constantly cultivate those positive habits, weed out those negative thoughts, and, really nurture our mental and emotional well-being.
It's an ongoing process, right? It's not like you reach some state of perfection and then you're done.
Exactly. And it requires patience and consistency.
And sometimes, you're going to have setbacks.
There will be weeds.
But you just got to keep tending that garden.
Keep cultivating that growth.
And I think that's a really beautiful analogy. It speaks to this idea that personal growth, it's not about achieving some end goal.
It's about the journey.
Exactly. It's about the process of learning and evolving and becoming more aligned with who we truly are.
And that process, it looks different for everyone.
Right. There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
But I think Will's journey, it offers some really valuable insights that we can all apply to our own lives.
Absolutely. So to wrap up this deep dive, what are some key takeaways that our listeners can start implementing today?
Well, I think one of the most important things is to cultivate self-awareness.
Like really taking the time to understand our own thoughts and feelings and behaviors.
And how they might be influenced by our past experiences.
Right, like recognizing those broken calculator moments.
Exactly. And then from there, we can start to make conscious choices to shift those patterns.
And that requires a willingness to be honest with ourselves.
And to challenge those limiting beliefs that might be holding us back.
And to be kind to ourselves along the way.
Absolutely. Self-compassion is essential.
And it's also about extending that compassion to others.
Recognizing that everyone is fighting their own battles.
And that we're all interconnected in ways that we may not even fully understand.
So approaching our interactions with a sense of curiosity and empathy.
Instead of judgment and blame.
And remembering that we all have something to learn from each other.
I love that. And I think Will's story, it's a powerful reminder that personal growth, it's not just about improving ourselves.
It's about making the world a better place.
Exactly. His emphasis on connection and understanding it has the potential to really transform the way we interact with each other.
And to create a more compassionate and harmonious society.
So what can our listeners do to start putting these insights into action?
Well, I think a great place to start is by simply becoming more mindful of our interactions with others.
Like really paying attention to how we're communicating.
And making an effort to listen with an open heart.
And to speak with kindness and respect.
And to be willing to have those difficult conversations when they arise.
But to approach them with a spirit of understanding and a desire to find common ground.
And to remember that we're all in this together.
That's such a powerful message.
Yeah.
And I think it's one that we all need to hear right now.
Absolutely. So let's go out there and be the change we want to see in the world.
Starting with ourselves and rippling out to our families, our communities, and beyond.
And remember to have fun along the way.
Because life is too short to be anything but joyful.
Absolutely. So thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the mind of Will Smith.
It's been an inspiring journey, and we hope you've gained some valuable insights that you can take with you on your own path of growth and transformation.
And until next time, Keep diving deep.
And keep seeking the wisdom that's all around you.